Um, Hello, everyone. Mr. G here. I teach, I lead, and I spend a whole lot of time thinking about how we can do school better. I've got a question for you today. Can a school grow so much that it begins to lose the very things that made it successful? I have been thinking about this quite a bit, yeah, recently, especially because we are in admission season. Let me share with you what got me thinking about it. Just yesterday, I had a conversation with a parent who was looking to enroll his children, in our school. We talked. I asked several questions, and there was one question that I asked. I asked him, "Why are you considering a change of school?" And his answer, something I've been thinking about up till today. He told me that his family had been among the early families, the pioneer families in the school where the children currently attend, and that they were there when the school was still very small, infancy, one-arm classes, very few students per class. But then that the school started to grow. School grew. More students came, more families came, more staff. The school became bigger, and according to him, something else also happened along the way. He became concerned with discipline, he became concerned with direction, and he felt that some of the systems, and leadership structures were struggling to keep up with the growth the school was experiencing. He said something that caught my attention, that for him, education was not just about academic performance. It was about character, and for me, you know what they say, these ones have been found worthy in character and in learning. It's not just about learning. Getting an A in math, an A in science is not enough, right? So I understood that, because after more than 2 decades in education, from jam wire tutorial centers to structured school systems, from teaching and small schools to academic leadership, and then leading a school, I have come to appreciate something. Guess what that is? Parents are watching more than what we put in our brochures. They know so much more about our schools than what we put in the brochure that we send out to them. They are watching discipline, they are watching the culture, they are watching how our teachers treat their children, they are watching how leaders respond when something goes wrong. They are watching whether the school still feels like that school that's caught their attention, that school that they trusted when they first enrolled their child. This becomes particularly interesting when a school starts growing rapidly. Imagine a school with 100 students at inception. The proprietor most likely probably knows most or even all the children, knows them by name. The head of school, head of secondary, principal, whatever you call them, they know many of the parents personally. Teachers can easily walk into the head's office. A disciplinary issue can be discussed and resolved fairly quickly. The leadership team can have a very good sense of what is happening across the length and breadth of the school. A lot of the culture is carried through relationships. Now, take that same school of 100 to 300 students, and then scale up to 500 to 800, and maybe to even 1,000 students. Something has changed. It is no longer simply a bigger school, it has become a complex organization. And what this means is, for leaders, the way you lead has to change as well. It has to evolve. You can't lead the same way you led the school when you had only 100 students. Now you have 1,000, 10 times more. I remember attending a training on school enrollment some years ago. Wanted to learn how to, increase our numbers. One of the facilitators said something, and he used an analogy then, that I think is apt in this context. He said that there are people who can cook fantastically for 5 people, but give them 20 people to cook for, and suddenly they are struggling. If you're not careful, you might say that, but you know how to cook. What happened? Nothing happened to their ability to cook. The scale just changed, okay? The quantities changed, the timing changed, the ingredients, the amount of pepper, tomato, maggi you needed for 5 people is not the same for 20. The salt quantity that you need to put in is not more the same. So the process changed. Schools operate like that. So this school can be very well run at 100 students and begin to struggle at 500 if its leadership, if its structures and systems have not evolved. This is something I've learned from working in different school environments. You cannot lead a growing school exactly the way you led it when it was small. I recall the story told about this manager, that was employed to, pull a company up, a company that was, nosediving. There was high rates of indiscipline from the staff. So they got this former military person who was into HR to come and steady the ship. This guy got in, and in 6 months' time, if you did not ship up, you will ship out. Everything was going, to plan. The company, was revived and started growing. A year and 6 months down the line, there were issues. Leadership was struggling. This leader, this former military person that came in, the method he had used, that very hard method he had used to steady the ship, was the same method he was still using a year and 6 months later. He failed to evolve. Do you understand? The Jose Mourinho as a coach, I'm a football person, I'm going to be bringing in football every now and then. In his first tenure as Chelsea coach, 2004, and then in 2013-12, when he came back a second time, I'm sure that the systems were not the same. And what he expected from the players, the John Terrys, the Lampards, the Drogba's of 2004, was not the same personalities and mindsets that he met in 2013. What is the point? The point is that as a school is evolving and growing in numbers, that leadership must also grow and evolve with it. At some point, the founder cannot know everything going on in the school. The head cannot personally supervise everything. The senior leadership team cannot carry every responsibility. These are facts, they are realities. You will have to build people, you have to build systems, you have to build capacity, so that you can develop a middle management team that can carry this growing school. Talking about this reminds me of, Jim Collins's book, published I think in 2009, How the Mighty Falls. He speaks about the idea of undisciplined pursuit of more. That a school starts doing well, parents are happy, enrollment increases, the school becomes very visible, social media everywhere, you know about the school. Then there is a temptation to keep going, to want to get more students, more programs. So you're not just okay with students, you want more programs, you want to run several curricula at the same time. More classrooms, of course, maybe even another campus, in the same state or even in a different state. We have schools that even have campuses in different countries of the world. Don't get me wrong, okay? There is nothing wrong with growth. The problem begins when growth moves faster than capacity. Because every additional student creates additional complexity. More students mean more teachers. More teachers mean more leadership, right? More leadership means clearer accountability. Who does what? So that you're not duplicating functions. More students mean more behavior cases. And more behavior cases would require stronger pastoral and disciplinary systems. More parents means more communication. More classrooms require stronger quality assurance and quality control. More staff require better recruitment, induction, and even professional growth. You may even need to, hire out your staff recruitment to a vendor. So growth creates complexity, and complexity requires capacity. Okay, this is the part I think that school owners and leaders need to pay attention to. If your enrollment doubles, can your leadership structure handle it? If your staff numbers double, do you have people who can lead them? If by September you were to have twice as many students, can you still maintain the same standards of discipline in your school? Can you still respond properly to safeguarding concerns? Can you still monitor teaching quality? Go into classrooms, observe lessons, or you are now programmed to be in your office? Can parents still reach the right person when they have concerns? Can you still give students the attention that attracted their parents to you in the first place? These are questions that matter. So, you are a growing school. What should you do? First, build capacity, leadership capacity, before you desperately need it. Don't wait until you need it before build. Do not wait until the school is already struggling before you start developing leaders. Identify people with potential in your team, give them responsibility, train them, let them make decisions. All right? You should make mistakes, you should grow from it, hold them accountable, of course. A growing school needs more than a strong proprietor or head of school. It needs a strong leadership pipeline. Second, protect your culture deliberately. Be intentional about protecting your school culture. When a school is small, the culture is easy to see. Oh, in that school, the children greet. Oh, they have leadership in that school. Oh, in that school, they, are very academic minded. The schools are when you come to Germany, people see your values when you are small very easily. They know what is acceptable in that school. Parents, teachers, the students, even the students know. But as your school grows, you cannot expect everyone to simply absorb the culture by just being around you, the head. You have to articulate that culture. You have to model the culture. You have to teach the culture. You have to reinforce. Remember that you're going to be recruiting people who will need to carry this culture. And you may have staff that began this vision, this journey with you. 5 years down the line, maybe more than half the staff have gone and you have new people. So you need to always model, teach it, reinforce it. Third, do not allow discipline to depend entirely on personalities. I've seen schools where one particular administrator is excellent at maintaining order. Once the students see that person, the teachers see that person, everybody, shapes up. And when that person leaves, suddenly the system begins to struggle. That tells you something. It should tell you something. Discipline should be institutional, not personality-based. There should be clear expectations, in your school. Clear procedures, clear policies, written down policies. People read and sign. Consistent consequences. And of course, pastoral support. Many of us feel that discipline in a school is about punishment. Discipline, especially with Gen Zs and Gen Alphas, is about helping young people develop responsibility, develop self-control, and develop positive character. Fourth, listen to your stakeholders. Who are your stakeholders? Parents, students, your teachers. You can share questionnaires, anonymous questionnaires. You can have suggestion boxes in your school where people can drop in things. If possible, make it possible that people can talk to you without fear of any kind of reprisal. Because these are stakeholders, they often see things before your leadership will see it. And sometimes the feedback will not be pleasant. It will be palatable. You must be willing to listen this feedback. Feedback can be extremely useful. Look at feedback as data. What is this data saying to me? If several parents are raising the same concern, do not ask, how do we defend the school? Most of us, how do we defend the school? Instead, ask, what is this thing? telling us. If teachers keep mentioning the same operational problem, please investigate it. If your students are telling you that something is not working, please listen to them. Sometimes the people closest to the problem are the first people who can help you see it, and they are your stakeholders. Most times they are not your management staff. And finally, do not allow growth to outrun quality. Remember, I said there is nothing wrong with wanting more students. There is nothing wrong with building a bigger school. There is nothing wrong with opening another campus. Nothing wrong with that. But every stage of growth should come with investment in people, leadership, systems, infrastructure, and quality assurance and quality control. Because the parents in that your school, they would eventually notice. They will. They notice when the school becomes too crowded. They notice when discipline starts slipping. They notice when your standards begin to nosedive. They notice when communication becomes poor. That's cool. They don't respond anymore. They notice when teachers are overwhelmed. They notice when their children no longer receive the attention they used to receive ab initio. And they notice when the school no longer feels like the school they originally chose. That is the part that concerns me, and the reason why I'm making this video. You can have beautiful enrollment figures on a spreadsheet while the trust in your school is quietly declining. So perhaps the real question is not how big can we become? The better question should be how good can we remain as we grow? For those of you watching me who aspire to become school leaders, think about this very early. Leadership is not simply about managing teachers, timetables, examinations, and classrooms. At some point in your leadership journey, you may be responsible for an organization that has become much bigger than the one you started with. And when that happens, your ability to build people and systems becomes just as important as your ability to teach. For school owners, the challenge is even more direct. Build a school that can grow without losing its identity, what it was known for in its founding days. Build systems that can carry your values beyond your personal presence, beyond you. Build leaders who can maintain standards even when you are not in the room. Because ultimately, the real test of school growth is not how many students you can attract.
It's 14 hours.
It is whether the quality that attracted them in the first place survives the growth. So I'm going to leave you with this. If your school doubled in size by September, what would break first? Will it be your leadership structure? Will it be your communication? Will it be your discipline system? Will it be your quality assurance and quality control system? Or perhaps, will it be your standards and culture? I would love to sincerely, read from you in the comment section. If you're a school owner, a school leader, you're a teacher or aspiring school leader, please let me know in the comment section what you have seen work when a school grew and what you have seen fail when a school grew as well. And if there is a school leadership, teaching, or education question you would like me to tackle in another video, please let me know in the comment section, okay? If this conversation gave you something to think about, please like it, share it with another educator, and let us keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep teaching, keep leading, and keep building schools that are worth trusting. Mr. J, signing out.